the people in order to form a more perfect union. Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility.
So, Mr. Kramer, I've been reviewing your work. Quite frankly, it stinks. Well, I've been, having trouble at home. No. I don't think that's what's going to do it. These reports you handed in, it's almost as if you have no business training at all. I don't know what this is supposed to be. That was a little clip from some lines from a famous Seinfeld episode where Kramer is imitating working at an upscale firm, and he has no idea what he's doing. And it made me think of the writers of this episode, Captain, the Omega Glory.
Well,
I could just imagine that
there's
someone
only one
looking
writer
at
here.
this. Right, okay, the writer being like, it's almost as if you have no writing training at all. He's like, well, God, I'm not really even supposed to be here.
Well, well, when I tell you who it is, you're going to roll your eyes. But good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. I'm your host, Captain Matt Ross, accompanied again by the recovering XO, Michael Pontone. How are we doing tonight, Mike?
I'm
feeling better?
Better than I have in weeks. I'm sorry for the delay, everyone. First, it was me sick,
He's
then
always
my baby sick, then me again sick. Ugh, and then baby sick again.
Yeah, you can't believe it. Yeah, and then one of them turned into crystals and fell on the floor. It was crazy.
It was
nuts.
It was truly rough. I'm still not back to 100%, but I swore to my captain I would take performance-enhancing drugs to make tonight's episode happen. So there we are.
Well, you could also go to the planet Omega, and maybe you'll live longer as well. Tonight's episode is The Omega Glory, written by
From
the person with
sea
absolutely
to
no experience.
Shining sea. Yes, okay, giving away the
Yes,
ending. Bye.
Gene Roddenberry wrote this. He wrote it. He was in love with this episode. It was terrible. DC Fontana hated it. Robert Justman actually was going to write him a scathing memo and say, I really hate this. But he said, you know what? I'll just talk to Gene and he'll listen to me. Well, he didn't. And you know what's even more disturbing? This was in the running for the pilot of the TV series. So you had three choices.
Okay, listen, we're going to get into this. You want to give the plot? Because I want to jump right in because I got thoughts right from the first spot there.
Yeah, are your thoughts like, oh God, is this over? Because that's
no, you
kind of interesting.
Yeah, it starts with such promise and it goes so far sideways. Go on.
Well, the starting with the promise is even funnier because it's not even by Gene Roddenberry. But anyway, this is from February 6, 1968. Captain Kirk and part of his crew are exposed to a deadly disease when they board the starship Exeter, whose crew died under mysterious circumstances in the Omega Glory. That's the brief synopsis of it. Yes. I think this starts off strong where we have the ship coming the Enterprise coming up to this planet to see the USS Exeter, which is obviously another shot of a Constitution ship. It's the exact same thing. But I actually love the cold open, to tell you the truth, where they beam aboard an abandoned ship.
Oh, absolutely. It was like a real shoot to thrill. Everyone twisting the knobs and coming up. It was like, all right, yep. Federation folks in fine form.
And then we see the abandoned ship, and then they go aboard the ship itself. They get it's what the heck's going on? It's abandoned.
This is Captain Kirk of the USS Enterprise. Is there anyone on board? If there is, if you can hear me, please respond by intercom to the engineering section.
Around this planet, and Kirk saying, well, it was exploring this area. But I just want to go back to one thing. Gene Roddenberry wrote this, and I said this already. This was the idea for the second pilot, Beyond the Cage, which you have still not seen, which was used in the Menageries, Part 1 and Part 2. This was going to either be Mudd's Women, The Omega Glory, or Where No Man Has Gone Before. And after you see this episode, you are thankful that Where No Man Has Gone Before was the idea for the second pilot, which was aired third. Because if this was the only thing they had, I think the show would have been canceled from the get-go, right? Wouldn't you say that?
I mean, listen, I'm just going to get right into it.
Do it.
The first half was fine. It was frickin' samey. It was the same thing that we've seen 1,000 other times before, right? About like a Federation guy kind of corrupting things. Ugh. gosh, like a new society and what's going on, and maybe there's a disease and it's already infected us.
Alternate Earth.
Right? 1,000 alternate Earth, 1,000 different. Well, no. That's the thing. That's a weird thing that we get to. There are 1,000 different things going on that we've seen before several times.
Yes.
The whole back and forth of the breach of the Prime Directive influencing things and all this jazz, right?
Yep.
The interesting thing is that so the thrust of the episode ultimately, which is revealed well after the halfway point, is Spock, in just guessing what happened, as bad as Jeff Goldblum guessing how to kill the aliens in Independence Day.
With a Macintosh.
Just, right, guesses that this was just happened to be a parallel Earth that randomly developed Russians and Americans, had a Cold War, and then was reduced to the Stone Age, right?
Well, it's actually Kirk who notices that it's the two tribes are Yangs. He said Yangs? Yankees? But that's really getting to the end.
Spock? Yankees. Communists. Paramount is almost too close, Captain.
But yeah, it is kind of weird how they just jump to it.
But here's the thing, okay? It's founded on a basis of reality and a basis of theory of scientific fact, which is that if space is infinite, everything is possible, right?
That's true.
Like if space is completely infinite, right now there is another Earth, right, with both of us doing the exact same thing somewhere.
Yeah, we'd be monetized
You
there.
know what I mean? Exactly. Right? Or I'd be the more handsome one instead of Matt.
Oh,
right? So there would
never
be
happened.
something. Exactly. In no reality. But the point is that that's true in infinity. This happened in the galaxy. That's where there was like, well, you were almost smart, or you had half a good idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you. But, this is, again, like along the lines of Miri with an alternate Earth. I'm going to just tell you, let's just get right back to the beginning. When they get to the USS Exeter, which is obviously the same class of ship of the USS Enterprise. By the way, you can always hear about the USA jingoism in most of Gene Roddenberry's writing, like it is a Constitution-class starship, referring to the U.S. Constitution, and they're all named after the U.S. fleet ships, except the Exeter. But that interesting thing what they find on there, when they get across onto the ship, you see all these crystals in uniforms. That's very creepy.
As if they were in them when... Exactly. When... What?
But you know who came up with that? It wasn't Gene Roddenberry. It was William Shatner's idea. William Shatner actually came up with the idea of coming up to an abandoned ship where everyone's been turned by a disease into crystals. But
I mean, that's cool. I like it, right? Kind of some sort of weird dehydration. It's a little bit too much to me, like the salt monsters, because it's like, okay, they took all the salt out of the people. This time they take the people out of the salt.
Well, I mean, that's kind of creepy, though. I mean, I wish that after they're on the ship, that just disappears. I mean, you got McCoy going like, look, if you take all the water out of humans, this is what we are. Although he says we're 70% water or 90% water, we're actually 70% water.
Jim, the crew didn't leave. They're still here. What do you mean? These white crystals, that's what's left of the human body when you take the water away, which makes up 96% of our bodies. Without water, we're all just 3 or 4 pounds of chemicals.
That's actually kind of creepy, where they just die. And then you actually get to see the ship's surgeon on there.
If you've come aboard the ship, you're dead, man.
By the way, the ship's surgeon, what's really cool about him, he is played by Ed McReady. He's actually one of the patients from the Tantalus colony in the very beginning. It's actually cool. In fact, later, we have another person who's from the Tantalus colony, which is one of our main characters, the main bad guy, Morgan Woodward, who plays Captain Ron Tracy, who we find out later. But anyway, Ed McReady says, you better beam down or you're all going to die. That's kind of creepy. You think of all the protocols you see in Next Gen. They beam up and they sterilize everything. Of course, you have that early episode where you have the Naked Now, where you got some guy just touching anything and he kills himself and everyone goes crazy.
Of course.
Here they just beam up from the ship, from the planet. No decontamination, no anything. everyone dies in a matter of minutes. It's kind of gross. And it's like, they kind of maybe need like something. But,
Yeah.
I actually did like that opening with the crystals all over the place. It was very creepy, that entire bit. I wish they stuck with that more, but you never hear from it again once they beam down to the planet, kind of. Everything's fine, you know. And
Right.
that's where we see Captain Ron and Tracy when they beam down. You see people dressed kind of Chinese, actually. This, just to let it out, this was actually supposed to be an extrapolation of the Vietnam War, by the way. It's where
What?
yeah, I'm serious. It's
Everything's the Vietnam War. Jesus. How many times have we heard that?
Well, I mean, that's what this was. This was supposed to be an anti-war thing again, but it actually really isn't. If you think about it, it is and it isn't.
No.
It's kind of weird. So you have two forces fighting each other, the Yangs and the Combs, and since we already said what it was, the Yankees versus the Communists. The idea behind here was that what happens if the Vietnam War expanded and never really ended? And on this planet, everyone nuked and biologically warred themselves to death, except for those who were able to be survival of the fittest, Darwinism, if you will. And you have small pockets of Yangs, and you have the one last outpost of the comms or communists who've taken it over the world or destroyed most of the things. It's kind of weird. Yeah, so you can't believe that either. It's a little strange, right?
A lot's happened since you were frozen. The Cold War's over.
Well, finally those capitalist pigs will pay for their crimes, eh? Hey, comrades? Hey?
Austin, we won.
Oh, groovy, smashing. Yay, capitalism.
But haven't everything... go on.
Well, let's see. They meet Captain Tracy when they beam down. You notice, of course, he has a different symbol for his uniform because each ship at this point has a different thing. But Captain Ron Tracy, he's Dr. Van Gelder from the Tantalus Colony. Isn't that pretty wild? The guy who couldn't talk because he was under such pain from the neuralizer. That's the same guy.
Yes.
It's pretty wild. He's always played like bad guys or Western things. I thought he did an excellent job as like the sort of bad guy here. Here's the question. So he's the only one left on this planet. This you got a whole bunch of Prime Directive issues. First of all, he's beaming down, and he's negotiating something, talking with the Combe village elders and so forth. Why? Why would he be doing that? It doesn't make sense. That already is a Prime Directive violation. And then
Did they bring up the Prime Directive at any point in this?
Well, they kind of do. It's what happens here is that they realize after McCoy sets to work to try and find a cure for whatever virus it is that's infecting them, Spock and the soon-to-be dead Redshirt, who was actually also brought back to life later in another episode, they find used power packs from Ron Tracy's phaser. So they're saying Captain Tracy was shooting the Yangs as they were under attack.
Now, wait a minute. He lost his ship and his crew, and then he found himself the only thing standing between an entire village of pleasant, peaceful people. Regulations are quite harsh, but they're also quite clear, Captain.
So here's the question. Since a starship captain's prime duty, as Kirk points out, is that, you are sworn duty to even die to protect the Prime Directive, how strong is that urge? That's the real question over here. It's like, what, your training. He's the last, McCoy says he was the last person left among a village of peaceful, pleasant people being attacked by savages, and he joined them.
Let me just say, okay, Echoes of Future Trek. I like when there are exceptions to rules. I really like one of my favorite DS9 episodes, as embarrassing as that is The Magnificent Ferengi, where a Vorta, who is, of course, bred for loyalty, genetically modified for loyalty to be diplomats, is being returned to the Dominion. He is supposed to have killed himself, and he just didn't do it because he didn't want to. Now, this, the point is, there are rules, and it's interesting when you see those rules being broken and why. So, of course, yes, anyone who's Federation through and through is not going to break the Prime Directive. But, I mean, that doesn't mean that there are bad actors here.
The Star Captain's most solemn oath is that he will give his life, even his entire crew,
rather than violate the Prime Directive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, our intrepid crew of almost every series of Star Trek breaks the Prime Directive as quickly as you blink all the time. But it's a little bit odd that they went down first of all to a primitive planet to begin with. That's part of the contradiction, I would say, in this is like, why would you go down? It's like an immediate breaking of the Prime Directive, and now he's the last one there. I guess self-preservation. That's a human thing, which is more to it. I like, just by the way, this idea. He's trapped on a planet alone. He can't get back to his ship because there's no one there to operate the controls. He's all alone. Do you follow your rules knowing that you will eventually die, or do you use the tools that you have to protect yourself and live with people that seem to be nice? I think that idea and that story beat is an interesting discussion just on its own, at least in this episode. I think that's fun to discuss. The idea of the disease, again, also is an impetus. Like, he's trapped there, but everyone on the planet seems to be living forever. Like, some people are like 800 years old, and some guy's dad's over 1,000 years old.
That's
kind of
like,
weird.
there's so many weird half plot threads here. Like, right, I forgot that they were all very long lived. That doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, there's no why.
No.
Okay, all right. So how does that function to the plot at all? You could have kept that line off, and and nothing would have changed.
Yeah, if you just left it with the disease, and like where the Enterprise crew is concerned, like, what are we going to do about the Exeter? Makes you wonder, though. What do they do afterwards? They like just open the ship up to space, or like have some guys in a hazmat suit and a big hose wash the ship down at the end.
Right.
It's a little strange, but when it's discovered that Ron Tracy's violating the Prime Directive, then we see that actually come up again. You never see. This is where the deal is like where Kirk is saying, like, "What, you want to go? What do you want to do? You're trying to sell this to everybody? Is that what the idea is?" And like Ron Tracy in this moneyless society goes, "That's right. We'll get a whole fleet of ships coming back to us saying, we want to buy immortality."
Are you grasping all it means? This immunizing agent here, once we've found it, is a fountain of youth, virtual immortality, or as much as any man will ever want. For sale by those who own the serum. McCoy will eventually isolate it. When we're ready, we'll bargain for a whole fleet of ships to pick us up.
And what's odd is that the same story kind of comes up again in Star Trek Insurrection. That's the next gen film. The planet of everyone wearing like blah colors. You remember that one?
Yes.
It's repeating stories again and again, but this is originally in the 60s. I don't know. It's just something I noticed. It's just like, it's a very...
That's the thing. At what point
nothing
do
story.
They stop repeating the same goddamn story?
Never. You always repeat the same stories again and again. That's what modern television or any television's about.
I suppose.
So there. Well, just to let you know, there were many rewrites on this. I know you're shocked. They originally, when this was originally written back in 66, they shelved the story because they thought it sucked. Also, NBC did not like this at all. Originally, they just thought it was not strong enough. But Gene Roddenberry thought it was the best thing ever. In fact, he submitted it for an award from the Writers Guild of America.
What?
Surprised he didn't win.
Why? Why do you think this
Yeah,
is so
I'm serious.
Good? Like, of all the episodes.
I don't know. I think he was loved the idea of a conflict where the United States comes out on top, I guess. I just think it's funny that everyone was telling him, this is garbage, man. You need to have more to it. It's terrible. It was just not a lot of fun. This wasn't a good script. Herb Solow and Robert Justman noticed. Gene Kuhn didn't even want to edit it. How's that? So no one liked editing it or working on it. So Gene Roddenberry did everything on it. And, it's got some Roddenberryanisms in it, which is like a very patriotic USA-centric story. It makes the Starfleet crew paragons of virtue, except for one person. So it's a little weird that way. But it's, in a sense, very short, if you think about the story. We get down there, we find out what the disease is, we see Captain Tracy as a criminal, we find out that they're being surrounded. But, when Kirk doesn't want to play ball, we also have a lot of fighting. How many more fights are we going to have? We have a fight between Captain Kirk and Ron Tracy. They fight 3 times. I mean, all I keep hearing is every time I see a fight on the screen is Itchy and Scratchy from The Simpsons with the fight, fight, fight song.
And guess what? He also gets imprisoned and escapes, right?
Yeah, he does. It's almost like that. It's like they.
How many times does that happen? That's a piece of the action. That's the Nazi one.
I was waiting for you to notice that.
Gosh.
It's the same story.
Are you kidding me? How do I not notice it? It gets me so angry.
Hey, but
why are they doing this? It's like it's written by AI before there's AI.
Well, I guess maybe Gene Roddenberry was an AI, but that's our next episode, by the way, that's coming up. This, though, I do like the jail scene is because Spock is giving really useful hints like, hey, maybe you can knock one of them out. Gee whiz, thanks, Spock. Or, if you knocked one of them out or if they got tired, one could rest and the other one could kick your ass, Captain. Thanks, Mrs. Spock. I appreciate all your help.
Keep trying, Captain. Behavior is highly illogical.
No point in repeating that it's illogical, Spock. I'm quite aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, I do like it though. You get the magic word over here. You have freedom. I love that.
Freedom is a worship word. Yang worship will not speak it.
I think that's actually pretty funny. Ray Johnson is Cloud William is his name. Ray Johnson has his voice augmented by sound manipulation to make it deeper. It's like freedom is one of our holy words. That's all right. But again, it's very, Spock with his Vulcan devil look. And he, by the way, the woman's name is Syrah, even though she doesn't really say anything except screams. It goes, I mean,
Captain, I'm going to be honest with you. This episode's a blur. It was just, I was getting it in my memory now. I watched it very recently. It all runs together with all the other recent episodes that have very similar plot structure of threat, bad Federation influence, escape. And then, the only thing that I remember, obviously, that really stands out is the stupid reveal at the end.
Yes, the reveal at the end is quite stupid. That's where we get into the real jingoistic BS. They come on out with their mangling of the Constitution of the United States with "We the People." It's it's terrible. He actually says something like, "I plegi enectu flagon tu pep."
I plegli enectum flagon tu pep, like for stand.
Like for stand. That's actually the exact words. It turns out, luckily for Kirk, the person he was imprisoned with was the head of all the Yangs. But when they get to this end scene where all the communists or comms are dead, that's where we were discussing before, Spock and Kirk deduce that Yangs are Yankees, and Spock says Combs are communists, and he goes, the parallels are almost incalculable. Well, obviously, it's ridiculous. And then you have the fight between good and evil while the Stars and Stripes come on in. You're like, oh, come on. Another parallel Earth. If it was an interdimensional thing, I would give it a pass.
Yes. 100%. Yes. Interdimensional. That would have been a fantastic plot element.
Yeah.
If it had been a some sort of ripple in time or space time that the crazy captain had discovered. Yeah. Oh my God, Matt, Captain, you just made it so much better.
Well,
that would have also been an amazing excuse or explanation for why they're all long-lived, right?
That's true.
Time is dilated. A year to us is 100 years to them, and time spans are thousands of years long, just in the very nature of their existence.
Yes. It was, but they never did that. And I still don't understand how Roddenberry could have thought this could be the second pilot. I mean, that would have been absolutely terrible. Even if you put this in the first season, you could say well, they're still filling their ways out. It just isn't that good of a story. It's really, You got another planet. I mean, if they were alien types like insectoids or something, and maybe that would made it a little bit more interesting. And then you could say Yangs and Coms type of things, if like there were Yankees and communists, but not printing in the United States flag, not an exact copy. And at the end, you have Kirk reading the Constitution of the United States. Although he does make one good point that's very important to it, which is true, which is that it's not just for one group of people, it's for all people, which is a great ideal to have, that this is not just for chiefs and not just for Yangs, but it's for all people, that we have to understand that we're all created equal and that we all should try and work together to make a better government.
These words and the words that follow were not written only for the Yangs, but for the Coms as well.
Corms.
They must apply to everyone, or they mean nothing. Do you understand?
But the fact that a totally alien world happens to have the exact same words and phrases, it's almost like that joke of like if you put like 100 monkeys in a room with a typewriter, eventually they'll be typing Shakespeare. I mean, I'm not calling the founders of the United States a bunch of monkeys. I'm just saying, like,
No, obviously. Listen, it's so much. The crazy thing is, just a couple of weeks ago, we had such a better episode with gosh, okay, come on, Power Annihilation. What was the Nazi episode?
Oh, you mean oh my God, Patterns of Force. That's
right.
the one with
okay.
the Nazi
So
planet.
Patterns of Force. That would be like if they had done Patterns of Force, but had omitted the whole interesting subplot about like the guy surmising that Nazi Germany was actually like a well constructed society in its foundations, aside from the anti-Semitism. Like
Right.
if they had just said, it would have been so they just randomly gone to a Nazi planet. It's like they randomly developed Nazis just like we had Nazis.
Yeah.
So, like, why wasn't it something like, oh my God, okay, here's a fine way to have done this. There was a alien planet and a time capsule or like some sort of like satellite from the space race that had gotten hurled through the galaxy, landed someplace. They saw the American flag. They knew that there was a Cold War going on at the time in the 60s, and they modeled their society on that.
Well, that's actually in a Voyager episode. I think it's called Friendship One, but that's towards in their 7th season, where there's an early Earth ship that destroys a planet because they base everything off of there, including antimatter, which ends badly. Let's just put it that way. Spoiler for something that's almost 40 years old. But there's that. That's also the talk. Like, should we put our instructions on our Voyager spacecraft that say, "Hey, come over here"? And then there's also the theory that with V'ger. How about with V'ger, the machine planet, deriving stuff on that? But I don't think on our stuff that we shoot out into space, even in this made-up Star Trek universe, has the U.S. flag on everything when it goes out there. It just feels like it of late. The other problem here is what you pointed out. We had Patterns of Force, which is an alternate Earth. You have Miri, which is an alternate Earth. You have the same kind of story with this Cold War-ish story. If you even look at A Private Little War, which is another Vietnam allegory, you have all of these in a row, in a sense, and it diminishes the value of the story. And just this story in general is weak between its dialogue and, well, I mean, I don't know. The dialogue, I think the best dialogue is Captain Kirk's reading of how the Constitution, the words are special and it should be applied to everybody. The finding of the crystal people on the ship or the remains, that's pretty okay. But the rest of it, it's just not fun. It's just terrible, I think. We're getting close to the end of the 2nd season. These last several episodes, this one is not one of my favorite. It's just terrible. And we've got, how many fights do we got here? We have Kirk fighting Captain Tracy in the beginning, and then gets sent to jail. You got Kirk fighting Cloud William in the jail. You got Kirk fighting Captain Tracy while they get captured by Cloud William and his spear-wielding Yangs. And then at the end, you have another fight between Ron, Tracy, and Kirk, saying, who's going to win? Good versus evil. Kirk being one of the two. And Ron Tracy saying, I'm good. It's like, okay, all right. And obviously Kirk's evil because, look, let me just randomly turn to a page. Here's someone that looks like a Vulcan, a devil, if you will, which is, they've used that before on many things, like in the Apple.
Are you casting me in the role of Satan?
Not at all, Captain.
Is there anyone on this ship who even remotely looks like Satan?
I am not aware of anyone who fits that description, Captain.
No, Mr. Spock, I didn't think you would.
They used that in the Apple where they had, with Val. Are you calling me the serpent or the devil, Mr. Spock? And do you know anyone on the ship that's like the devil? They used that again. It was like, blah.
Why isn't he seeing that he is plagiarizing from himself?
It's not really his play. That's different stories. It's just, you have a lot of people in the world that come up with the same ideas again and again. Roddenberry.
But isn't he seeing the episodes that are being made in the weeks prior?
You're going to tell the boss that your stuff sucks? That's why Robert Justman didn't put it in writing. He just figured I'll just talk to Gene about my concerns, including stuff like that, because he didn't want to hurt his ego, and also because Gene Roddenberry was known to be an explosive character. I know that's not a surprise. So it was difficult to tell him anything. I mean, but yeah, getting to that ending, you see the United States flag, and they're reading the Constitution of the United States. That ending, that entire little ending with Spock again is using something like from A Taste of Armageddon, where he stares at the woman and plants a suggestion. How powerful are Vulcans? I'm surprised they haven't taken over the galaxy, but for their peaceful intentions, or maybe Spock's just super cool. I don't know. The ending, I'm just jumping right to her because there's really not much else here. That ending is ridiculous. If you really think about it, they leave these guys. They say, this is what it says. I'll read you the first paragraph and we're out. And you see Sulu beam down saying, you need help. I mean, that's about it. And then they leave. So does that mean that Sulu has to stay there for an hour before they get back out of there? I guess so. I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. And you see Kirk like staring at the United States flag with some sort of pride. Why would he have pride about it? It's beyond. Yeah. It doesn't. It's not a good one. It's not a good one. Oh, I do want to point out. I think this is funny. It's the second time that Sulu beams down with the security force, or first time he beams down with the security force to try and save the day. The second time that I'm referring to. The second time would be Star Trek VI in the Undiscovered Country. He stops Admiral Cartwright. I think it's kind of funny that.
Oh, of course. Just a minute. Cartwright, just a minute.
Yep. I think that's very funny. It says 2 times that Sulu comes down with that. Also, Chekhov is not in this episode.
Yes, I did notice.
But that's the end of this episode. They teach the Yangs that everyone should live under the United States Constitution ideals. Well, we're not going to translate the rest of the box or the books that you're looking at. And we'll catch you later, I guess. I mean, I don't know. You don't really find too much. I mean, out other than this planet has got a long way to go. Do you send out a group of people to teach them how to do things? Take the Exeter in tow and then wash it down at the Starship car wash or something?
Let's just get to it. I want to do my crystallization of, of this episode. First of all, let me guess the budget.
Well, that's first. Okay, well, go ahead. How much do you think this was at $1967?
Okay, sets and big cast of characters, lots of extras, costumes. $181,000.
Close. $185,403, which translates as $1,775,200.42 in 2025 dollars.
So this was not only one of the worst in recent memory, but one of the most expensive as well.
Yes, although it did make a budget. It did hit budget in 6 days of filming. McEvedy, who was the director, said everyone was professional on it, but they were all a little nervous because there was rumors of cancellation. And if, luckily it wasn't based on this episode, because I would say, yeah.
Gosh.
By the way, the red shirt, David Ross, was actually in Miri, Archons, A Taste of Armageddon, and City on the Edge of Forever. He keeps getting renamed. He was Lieutenant Galloway. He actually returns as Lieutenant Johnson. That's the guy who gets vaporized by Captain Tracy. And then you also have the guy who says, no, this is only for cheats. With the book, that was a character from Return of the Archon's name is Haycom in the very beginning. That's Morgan Farley. I still like the idea of Morgan Woodward as the captain, being from the Tantalus colony. Maybe they all forgot that this was. There was an argument also later at the end of this story where Shatner got into a fight with one of the directors or one of the associate producers over here. A guy named James Ballas was critical of this episode, saying it sucked and he thought Shatner's acting sucked at the Christmas party.
No,
And Shatner
whatever.
complained to Bill.
What happened to that poor bastard?
Gene Roddenberry fired him.
Yeah. I mean, that you're asking for it. Come on, man. It's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood, baby, as some actresses said. Terrible.
Uh-huh.
But let's get to our last our ratings on this episode, because I don't really want to talk about this episode. It's terrible.
Okay, here's the thing. If it had just it was the worst version of rehashed plots that we've seen, one, done multiple times in recent viewing memory, and two, much better elsewhere. Much better written, much better developed. So it was the same, except worse. So, okay, good stuff. I like that cold opening. I like the cinematography. I actually think the acting was fine. I like the villain. He would have been better and more memorable had I not seen him 1,000 times before recently. You know, his equivalent.
Right.
I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10.
Wow. That's a 3 out of 10. That's your scientific rating? Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. And I'll tell you why. There's only one real portion I like about it, which is really the opening. I do like the idea, which is with the crystals all over the place. I do like the idea of a captain gone bad, and the sort of like a desperation why he was there. The idea of the Yangs and the communists, in theory, I kind of like, except it's too on the nose to modern day society of the time. I don't like, obviously, how it turns out with the USA flag there, and it's not an alternate universe. I like the idea of a planet where it was like devastated by war and so forth, where it was like a total devastation. That's a good idea, but the way this is characterized, where everyone is clearly human, it just doesn't carry the day for me. So I'm going to give it a 4. Mike's going to give it a 3. And also all the fighting drives me nuts. It's like, how many more fights are we going to have here? I do want to point out that Morgan Woodward, that's again Captain Tracy and Dr. Van Gelder, he actually was also in the movie Cool Hand Luke as one of the bosses. Godfrey, by the way. So you can see him there as well. Now, he doesn't say got a failure to communicate, but, you know, it's pretty cool that he's in there. I do like that all the actors are professional in it, no matter how bad the crap of the story is. But that's really about it.
Especially on an episodic TV series, you gotta do it someday. I mean, Picard and Spiner Patrick Stewart had to show up to Masks with Spiner and make it work. And you know what they did?
Masks. That's like what's the one with the flute? Oh, I can't believe I'm blanking on that one. It's like that
Inner light.
It's inner light. That's what it is. But as we move away from towing the Exeter to the car wash to clean it, we're going to talk about the next episode, which is a hell of a lot better. It's actually one of my favorite episodes of all of Star Trek. It's called it's called The Ultimate Computer. In fact, my son actually likes this one a lot as well. And we're talking about the age of AI. This one is actually quite genius. And we also learn about Dr. Richard Daystrom for the first time.
I love that guy.
One of the best episodes, I would say, of season 2 of Star Trek: The Original Series. And, you know, if you have any comment on the Omega Glory, or you have some good Apocrypha stories, you can always email us at yellingatgas@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification, as always. And don't forget to stop at our TeePublic T-shirt store. And hi, everyone out there. So, I don't know, anything else you want to add to this, Mike, other than you're glad that it's over?
Just to say that I'm sorry for the delay. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? the worst Trek is still Trek. I'm still happy to see my parasocial family, and I'm especially happy to talk about it with my captain, who's
Yes.
not a parasocial relationship. I truly am in love with him in real life.
Aw. Oh, that's
You hear it here.
disturbing. That's very disturbing. I'm going to have to send you to the
And he
agony
loves
booth
me
again,
too!
Mike.
What'd you say?
I'm sending you to the agony booth now.
Oh,
So-
yes. I deserve it! Okay.
That's right. But the next one is you'll join us hopefully next time on our next episode of The Ultimate Computer. That'll be on the next episode of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. Mike, as always, thanks again. Listen, you have a good night.
Good night to you, sir. Thank you.
All right, everyone. As always, live long and prosper, and we will see you out there.
Liberty and freedom have to be more than just words.